We're going to start with Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0. Unlucks, bruv.
Yeah.
Newcastle beat Arsenal, and they also beat up Arsenal 1-0 at St James's Park. Just like last season.
To be honest, I don't think it was quite as attritional as that, actually. I think...
Arteta disagrees with you.
Ooh, disagreeing with your manager.
I don't think it was quite as violent as you make out there. Because, Arteta spoke about how... they were dragged into playing the type of game Newcastle wanted, which I think is the case. But it was way, way more tetchy last season.
It was.
There were like lots of fouls, and it was very, very physical. But I don't think it was quite as insane as last season. But it was an extremely frustrating display. For Arsenal, one of the most frustrating Arsenal performances, genuinely in years. And that might sound alarmist, but this sort of performance was always around the corner in previous iterations of Arsenal. It'd be really, really frustrating. And that seems to have kind of happened less and less in the past few seasons. But it was really, really poor. And obviously, Newcastle were excellent. Obviously, as you've hinted at there, we should start there. They executed their game plan really, really well. Essentially, just sort of held Arsenal at arm's length, as Arteta alluded to, made them play their game. That cross from Gordon to Isak was brilliant. Right-footed winger on the right side.
Wasn't that nice? Wasn't that a lovely throwback?
You know who was there to watch it?
Yeah,
from Newcastle's side.
Ant.
Nobby Solano.
Oh.
Was he really?
Yeah, right out of his playbook.
Oh, was that right? Ant was there, though.
Ant as in...
Dex.
Ant Gordon.
Ant Gordon.
No, Dex, mate.
Right.
Right, okay.
Where else do you
guess Ant and Deck were on the pitch.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, of course. See,
yeah,
Deck Rice.
Never far away.
Yeah. Did they? Was that what the issue was for Arsenal? They ended up standing in the same and Deck, so he couldn't get near him.
It threw the formation completely for both teams, but Newcastle just adopted better.
Did I tell you once that I once saw Deck on? I was on my way to work many years ago, and he was on quite a busy road in London, and he was stood there with a little bag on his shoulder, and it was sort of 8:45 in the morning, and I walked past him and I looked at him and I was like, that's Declan, what's his name? Donnelly. And I looked at him and was like, I gave him a little nod. And
two broadcasting greats just crossing paths in the street.
He wasn't at the time. No, he wasn't. No, I saw him, and then moments later, a Range Rover pulled up. And I looked, and it was Ant at the wheel, and he got in, and they both drove off.
Oh wow! So one of them is the other's chauffeur.
It was odd to see one without the other, but fortunately, the universe corrected it immediately.
Yeah. Anyway, Bournemouth 2.
Yes, well, Mikel Arteta, you said about the being dragged into the game. He said, "I'm very frustrated. We deserve to lose today," and he mentioned about being dragged in. And he said of our Newcastle, they are really good at what they do, which is a backhanded compliment, I think. They drag you into the sort of game they want. They are all big and very physical. Joe Linton especially.
But the irony is that the team that Arsenal put out, essentially the squad that Arteta has built, is to cope with exactly that kind of thing.
Indeed, yeah.
And it's not worked at all, has it? Season before last, and Jorginho had a brilliant game at St James's Park, and Arteta talks about if you try to match them up physically, then the game becomes a lot more difficult. So you have to try and do things slightly differently. And actually, it's just sort of kind of fallen into a trap that he's successfully navigated before there. And I think we were talking last week, weren't we, about how a few seasons ago Newcastle were really difficult to play against, and it was a horrible, horrible experience, and that they've kind of lost a bit of that lately. But they had it back in spades here. But that said, I think the buck stops with Arteta on this one, because it's not like the players were like missing gilt-edged chances or anything, or just
Rice might have scored, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, but that's that's the one example, which is a fair one. But essentially, I mean, even that chance was kind of symptomatic of what the problem was, which was a lot of crosses that were kind of, low percentage chance of someone getting on the end of them, and Newcastle could just mop up all day. They were so comfortable.
They weren't Anthony Gordon-esque crosses.
They weren't Anthony Gordon-esque
But going back to Gordon, it was genuinely lovely seeing a right-footed player playing on the right side of attack, because there is that, the body's open. So I understand, because now, of course, and has been for many, many years across European football and beyond, is they're always inverted wingers, right, who cut inside, and I totally understand that. But the way Gordon he gets the ball out of his feet and then crosses it, you're like, yesterday.
That makes a lot of sense,
He crossed it first time, did he not?
Well, whatever he did, Vish, I enjoyed it.
Well, that made it even better, because when he did that, I thought, immediately, I was like, he must be having a shot. Well, he can't be trying to whip it in from there.
Yes,
but yeah, no, it was really, it felt like in the we're all old men now, And I feel like if I was sat next to someone younger than me, I would have been like, that's what we used to do. That's how we used to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It was Beckham-esque.
Now listen to a bit of Mark Morrison.
I love the fact that they were all going about the cross. The superb header from Isak, we haven't even mentioned yet.
Yeah, he didn't have to do much, did he?
Which was a lovely goal.
A British cross went in and he got his head on the end of it.
Yes.
It's a brilliant goal.
And a man with a very English accent when he talks. Alexander had scored Sweden's finest, of course. Only his third league goal of the season. So it's good for him to score.
It's not the maddest stat, though. It was something that was brought up. I was like, it's only his third goal of the season. I was like, I know, but it's...
I think but I mean, when you look at 2024 in its... well, not in its entirety, because we're not quite there, but for what we have of it, only Erling Haaland and Cole Palmer have scored more Premier League goals than him. So I think, that sort of first half of the year, or, the end of last season, you're kind of thinking that maybe he would be, had a few more by now. But of course, Newcastle haven't been scoring that many, and we've talked about them kind of not really getting out of second and third gear at times. But this was much more than Newcastle of I suppose the slightly earlier days of Eddie Howe, as you've already talked about, Jim. Much more high intensity and so on, all that sort of stuff where St James's Park's not been a fortress for a little while. No. And I think
this is the sort of result you kind of use to kind of correct that as well.
Indeed, you've got to build on it. And there's been talk about, as there have been for a while with Newcastle, with the injuries and so on, and maybe some lack of energy and whatnot. Well, goodness knows, what he said to them, because absolutely pumped up for this one, and it was a very, very good performance, and to score that early on after 12 minutes, and then look reasonably comfortable. I know you say that Rice header that hit the post on another day, he scores there. I mean, Arsenal was going to get something.
They didn't look like scoring at all, though.
Well, they registered just one shot on target across 90 minutes. Now, yes, there was a couple that flashed wide and so on, but generally speaking, Vish, you'd say that Newcastle were pretty comfortable in the game.
Yeah, they were. And I think there was a pass map doing the rounds after the game, and it pretty much highlighted the issue, because all Arsenal's passes through the middle were quite literally through the middle without actually going forward per se, like diagonally across from one wing to the other, without actually trying to find any penetration behind Newcastle's back line. And I mean, we all know who is usually responsible for those balls, even things like winning the ball back in midfield. And Jim, you mentioned it earlier that it has to fall on Arteta, and I suppose this does as well, in that when you're without someone like Martin Odegaard, you do need to have a backup plan.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's they can't be that reliant on him. And I wonder if they knew they were that reliant on him, because obviously he's generally available quite a lot. And the closest thing to him is a 17-year-old who did come on and had something like 11 touches.
Yeah, so which
obviously not his fault.
No,
on an
of course.
like that.
But you have your plan A, which Odegaard is a part of, and then you have a plan B, which in this case is without Odegaard. But you do need a plan in the middle where someone can come up against your plan B, and you think, well, who's the closest we have to, or how can we better replicate plan A without say this vital cog? And Nwaneri is an interesting one, because obviously there's been a lot of talk about him, and he's clearly excited. I mean, even have you seen some of the clips of him just warming up? It's absurd, but is this the kind of result that you see where Arteta thinks, right, I might as well just pull the cord on this guy in the Premier League?
Well, the fact he came on and only had 11 touches maybe suggests that Arteta is right to be a little bit careful with him, because it's a huge situation to drop him into. And I think there's always this situation with a young player that's highly rated. People think that's the answer to everything, but he is the closest kind of facsimile of Odegaard in the squad. So
does he play centrally then?
He does, yeah. He plays that exact position. So it is someone to drop in there. But Arsenal should be able to win games without Martin Odegaard.
Well,
it's not that they don't
absolutely
have creative players throughout the rest of the team, but something about it just isn't clicking at the moment. The passing was sloppy, the crosses were ineffective and largely pointless. It wasn't really. There was so much creativity lacking. It was passive. It was predictable.
I think you've got to restructure the midfield. If Odegaard, if that particular position, I mean, you've got
very functional without having any kind of creative.
Yeah,
edge.
but I mean, Jorginho's on the bench. I thought we might see him a bit more. You don't have to play with, I don't know, two behind the one at the top and that sort of triangle.
Partey being at right back is an issue there as well.
It is, which is again why I thought we may well have seen a little bit more of Jorginho.
And I suppose the thing to remember is that when you replace Odegaard, you don't actually need to replace everything he does. Yes. You just need to replace the important things he does, which Jorginho can do to a point, which is those kind of line breaking passes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Again, you don't have to play with a sort of, if you want to call him a number 10 or something. You've got to have more formations, more. You know what it's like. I mean, how many formations do they play during the 90 minutes?
Exactly.
So I'm surprised that they've not come up. I mean, Arsenal have played 10 league games so far. They've won 5 of them. They're 7 points behind Liverpool at the top. I mean, Arteta was already being asked about, is the title gone? I mean, it is early days, but
it's not an unreasonable question after this run, is it? And especially we know we've banged on many times about the sort of points total situation that the current Premier League operates within. And I think it's 2 defeats all season doesn't seem so terrible, I suppose, when you look at it. But it's making up that 7 points and then putting the points on top of it, and then essentially having to be perfect from now on. It feels like that is like, it's more likely to be a battle for the top 4 now. And I expect Arsenal to be way, way better than this over the course of the season. But it's going to be such a sort of costly blip. So
is this why Edu's jumping ship, Jim?
It might be. The reports this morning are saying that Edu's off to work with Evangelos Mariakis, which
he's had enough.
Feels like a rash decision from where I'm sat. But obviously,
Yeah, I mean, going on the league table, he probably thinks, well, I mean, it's a step up.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it is at the moment, isn't it? I do.
He can't operate like that continuously this early in the season.
Too chaotic. I do wonder if maybe the team has hit a wall in terms of mentality. Because the last 2 seasons, it's been very, very intense. It's all about, just fighting and scrapping for every single point available. Coming that close has got to be very, very difficult 2 years in a row. Yeah. I also think the way Arsenal are playing at the moment, we've spoken a lot about how it's very like grind set. It's all about being very sort of defensively minded and getting something and then having what you hold. And it doesn't look like it's a particularly enjoyable style to play. And I wonder if that's starting to show as well.
Quite possibly. It is early days though, but a huge win for Newcastle United nonetheless. Bournemouth did Arsenal and a lot of other teams up there a favour by beating Manchester City 2-1. Manchester City's 32 match unbeaten run in the Premier League comes to an end.
Meaning Arsenal stay invincible. Bigger picture, guys.
There we are. That's the one. They hadn't beaten Man City in 21 previous attempts. And Andoni Iraola said of Guardiola, I've lost so many times against him, so you have to enjoy when the day arrives. Go on, big man.
I do. I love that.
That is very good, isn't it? Did you see? I really enjoyed, because obviously, the manager, the post-match, immediate post-match manager handshake, I think is something in football which is, I think it's a bit annoying for a manager who's just secured a massive victory, because the final whistle goes, you want to go crazy, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to kind of compose yourself. But Iraola did that, went over to Guardiola, and Guardiola, normally we're used to him sort of hugging the other manager because he's beaten them, and he's going, you guys play such good football, you're so good.
Like Southampton last week.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he barely said 2 words to Iraola.
I don't know any of your players, and I love football.
Yeah, exactly. But Iraola, he shook his head very composed, and was it Tavernier or whoever? He just hit a little wink and a smile. It was what a win, though. I mean, Bournemouth, 2 big scalps already this season. Arsenal, of course, went down to 10 men, and I said, didn't I, at the time, well, if it was Man City going to 10 men, they beat them in 11.
Yeah,
egg on my face.
Indeed. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? We were talking about Southampton pressing City at home, and Guardiola praising them for that, and we kind of we thought we'd figured out what he was doing there with a little bit of mind games. It's like, if everybody plays us at our own game, maybe we'll get beat more. But Bournemouth are a really, really energetic pressing team, and we've seen that from them all season. And they stuck to that again, and they made life really, really difficult for City. With the second goal in particular, I love how quickly Evan Nilsson takes that.
Yes.
For Edison to not be ready for you,
that's right,
is really something.
It is. It absolutely is. You're right. And I think with that pressing and so on, as you say, when Guardiola starts saying, well, we've only got 13 fit players and all this kind of stuff, Iraola's going, oh, really? Up and at 'em, lads, And it's easier said than done, of course. You've got to execute it, and you're still playing the best team in the league. It's very, very impressive indeed. But I love that when Guardiola, as you say, praises Southampton. Iraola's thinking, I wonder if he's going to praise us.
Yeah, Guardiola after the game. No, not like that.
I mean, to be fair, Guardiola did say some nice comments about Bournemouth, because you have to, because again, the job Iraola has done down there is quite something indeed. They are a force to be reckoned with, especially at home. They're up to 9th in the league, but they've got a few goals in them. And in Antoine Semenyo,
he's class, isn't he?
Yeah, his stocks rise every week.
Oh my goodness! I mean, he's playing like one of the best players in the league, because on current form, he is one of the best players. You've got to love that when it's fairly early on in the season, before the sort of the difficulties and the cut and thrust of the Premier League really kind of sets in. Yeah, and all that sort of stuff. We're enjoying Chris Wood. We'll talk about him in a moment. Enjoying Danny Welbeck, of course, the evergreen. Yeah. And Semenyo is one of those players where you think he's taken to this season like a runaway freight train. It's absolutely beautiful. What a goal as well. That control. I mean, how often does a player in the Man City box have time to control it like that and then swivel and shoot? Normally they'd be on him. But the way he takes it was stunning. He is, again, such an exciting player and such a likeable player as well. It's just wonderful to see him in full flow.
Yeah, he has that quality of being able to beat a man at pace and do it from a standing start.
Yeah.
Like he can walk past. There's almost like a playground football element to him. He walks past players in size 10 Clarks. It's ridiculous. But his like end product is remarkable. And you're right about, to highlight the way he takes the goal, because he rolls the defender like a old-fashioned centre forward.
That's right.
The other thing that you're probably not going to like,
go on.
He butchered Kyle Walker.
Oh, he did.
I've not seen Kyle Walker manhandled like that in such fashion.
Well, okay, in terms of the physical.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you did see him outpaced at the Etihad the other week.
Yeah, but it felt a bit more like.
I mean, Walker's quite. I mean, he shouldn't really be playing. Although, did you see that when a Traore, obviously, was a few weeks ago for Fulham, Walker on the BBC was like, "Yeah, he did beat me, and it was very much, wow, I'll get him next time." He wasn't having any of it, which of course is the mindset of a winner and all that kind of thing. But yeah, like if you're Walker, you would be thinking, do I have to come up against him today? I'm not really that fit. Because, I mean, again, Man City, I say makeshift side. I mean, you look at the quality they have, for crying out loud, And actually, I mean, Haaland has a chance towards the end. I mean, the stand-in goalkeeper.
There was. He had
a great game. I mean, bear in mind, coming in against, not their first choice, but Haaland has a chance, hits the post, and even Phil Foden when he fizzes that one just wide. You think all day he's going to score, but that would have only got them a point, of course. But their first shot on target came in the 80th minute. Manchester City, which shows you just how well Bournemouth did. Bournemouth should have probably been 3-0 up, of course.
Adam Smith,
yeah, what a chance that was.
That was. I felt a bit bad because they'd already done brilliantly, but I was a bit like, "Oh, you idiot! What have you done? Why have you let City back into it?"
It's one of those chances where you have to hit it with a bit of pace, but the way the ball bounces and so on, and it comes up. Of course, he should have done better, but we've all been there. With that kind of chance. If you see what I mean.
2-0's a dangerous score, and maybe he was so panicked by that. That's true that he missed.
The pressure was on to kind of win it. But a glorious. I mean, obviously, Gvardiol will score because it's an away game.
It's amazing.
6 in 8.
Is he playing the right position?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Whenever they need a goal, is that right? Just go. Can you just either head it or bang it in from 25 yards? You choose.
It's superb.
Is he why they don't really have a backup striker? Or they move him if Haaland gets injured? Yeah,
definitely. I could see that happening. But yeah, again, you can't stress enough just how well Iraola and Bournemouth are doing, and it's such a. It's an exciting team. It's not particularly attritional, but they can defend when they need to, and so on. And nobody will enjoy going there this season. That's the thing.
The stadium capacity is just over 11,000.
Shouldn't really be allowed in the league. Should you? With that? That's a shame.
But there are no holes.
To praise them.
There's no holes in the roofs, though, Vish.
No,
it's perfectly functioning
because
stadium.
There's so many spectators at Old Trafford. Some of them get thirsty, and it's quite hard because you've got so many bodies to get through. It's like, just look up.
That's what it is.
Look up and open your mouth like a young bird getting sick from your mum.
Is Ineos cutting back so much that you have to drink the rainwater there?
Yes, yeah. Look, we mentioned this before. They're very environmentally conscious.
They are, to be fair.
They're all about recycling.
That's right, yeah. Don't worry, none of this water came from a river in this country. You can drink it.
If it comes from the sky, it hasn't come from a river. Remember that. I was going to, before I entered into that nonsense, this is quite a good point to reflect on how well Bournemouth have started, because it was 10 games into last season that they won their first game.
Yeah.
They've got 4 already. They won 13 overall last season, and it does. Like
what you're saying is when they were faffing around last season, this is what they should have done.
Yeah, when he probably came with all his foreign views, and they were like, look, park it, just cross it, and bang it, give it to the winger, let him blitz it and cross it.
We're crossing from the right side again these days.
But the point I was going to make was. It's not for Bournemouth to necessarily do this to us neutrals, but they are just a fun team to watch.
There they are.
And they've got exciting players across the park. Even that, when you look at that front 4, let's say, of Evanilson, Semenyo, Kluivert and Tavernier, like they're all individually...
It's just nice to have Kluivert in there, isn't it?
Always.
That's never going to get old.
Although...
Well, I mean, he will, but then hopefully he'll have a kid and he'll come through.
But he's... I think his wife is pregnant at the moment.
Yes.
So we've got another generation.
More Kluivert.
But we're going to witness another generation of Kluivert.
Well,
that's quite scary, isn't it?
Let the baby Kluivert decide what they want to do with their career.
Yeah, but just being in the world, I find that annoying in a way.
Annoying?
Not annoying, but
yeah.
for my own age.
I think we should move on.
We should, yeah.
But bearing in mind they sold Dominic Solanke, of course, it was so important.
I was going to mention that. And he was a proper talisman,
yes.
in a way that can be so difficult to move on from. And they're absolutely flying.
They are absolutely flying. Other South Coast sides weren't so lucky in the Premier League in terms of Brighton. Obviously, they lost at Anfield. Not a bad performance from Brighton, but Liverpool are top of the league. There was another South Coast side, though, that won. Southampton beat Everton 1-0. They bloody did it.
They finally did it.
They bloody did it.
They got,
and they were very...
goal was peppered all game. Aaron Ramsdale had a very good game, but
that's why they got him in. That's why they got him in. So, yeah, it was a good weekend for the South Coast because obviously Brighton were playing away, so we won't count.
There was Beto had a disallowed goal, didn't he?
Yeah.
And
what a finish!
But the touch to control it, the sort of volleyed,
glorious.
The volleyed touch to control it was so glorious. It's like, I don't know if it quite fits into the category of great disallowed goals, but that touch was.
It was a lovely one. It was a lovely one, yeah. But we're all pleased for Southampton. On behalf of everybody.
On behalf of everyone at the Football Ramble.
Yeah,
that's right.
Especially the people who've been here the longest. You're all, you're the happiest.
Very much so, very much so. All right, coming up after this, Nottingham Forest are up to third. Ribina's all round.
It's clear on the side for me from that angle. You're sending spaceships out to the outer colonies of the universe, if such things exist. And yet, how long does it take to get 2 lines drawn on a football pitch?
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Jonathan Pearce there with a moment of clarity.
Yeah, with some intel I wasn't aware of.
I love that. If such things exist.
Yeah.
Carry on, Jonathan.
Yeah, tell us more.
Set up a YouTube channel. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Dean, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent. And a reminder that if you want to get in touch with your stories, questions for the mailbag, or in response to anything at all, then email us show@footballramble.com. That's show@footballramble.com. Now, Nottingham Forest 3, West Ham United 0. Forest up to third! They're on the verge.
They are. They've taken it very personally, haven't they?
My goodness.
Our predictions.
They have. I mean, clearly Nuno Espirito Santo listens to this podcast. He'll be having a lovely time hearing us eat humble pie again, Jim Campbell. But Forest fans chanting, we're going to win the league. You can't blame them.
No.
They are up there on merit. I mean, they are 6 points off Liverpool, but they've already beaten Liverpool this season. So that's, when they play them at the City Ground, there's your 3 points. So they're only 3 points behind them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's boy math. I like it.
That's right. This 3-0 victory against West Ham was their biggest win in the Prem since 1996. Now, I know they weren't in it for a long time, but still I thought that was worth bringing up. Which goal should we start with? Ola Aina. Ola Aina scored a beauty and gave a brilliant post-match interview. He seemed absolutely delighted, and he was drinking a beaner.
He was drinking a Ribena, wasn't he?
Bring it back.
He also admitted he just hit it because he was knackered, and I love that.
Yeah.
Just be honest, it's way more interesting when they're honest.
But you can tell that he was knackered because because he gets the break of the ball, which is why it sits up really nicely for the shot. And a cracking shot it is. But when he thinks he's lost it, he stops running and he's like, oh, God, thank God.
Yes, that's right.
Someone's taking the ball off me.
Well, and then it goes to him and he's like, well, I've got to do something.
If I must.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can I pick out a man? No, I'll just pick out the top corner.
Yeah.
It was like chucking something into the laundry basket from across the room.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I'm pleased for because he's a good player. He's 28 now, and I remember seeing him for a season at Fulham. And
sorry, a little bit of Neil Warnock was creeping into your voice.
He's a good lad, is
a good lad.
Yeah.
Now
I think there's a bit of Neil Warnock in all of us,
Indeed.
really, if we are honest with ourselves, Jim. But he's never really sort of settled too much. I mean, I know he was at Torino for a bit. But then he went on loan to Fulham. But at Forest, again, not been there that long. But it's nice for him to be playing in a team where something's happening, something special is happening. And he's getting a few plaudits. And of course, that goal will highlight that. So when a player's been moved around, he's been on loan here and there. As I say, not getting any younger at 28. Still, in a good period in his career and in his age as a footballer. But to be there in the Premier League, a part of what's going on at Forest, I'm quite pleased for him myself. And of course, someone we're all very pleased for is Chris Wood. Yeah. Now 8 goals in his last 10 Premier League games. Having a lovely old time. Keeping Awoniyi, who's obviously done well in a Forest shirt in the Premier League, but he's keeping him on the bench, and he is the type of focal point that anybody wants to have in their team in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the pace they've got on the wings as well.
Yeah,
it's a really, really lovely sort of combination, like squad balance that they've got there.
Yeah,
and it's not long ago that we were talking about how scattergun their approach was, but they've they've refined it a little bit, and they've calmed all that down. And fair play to them. There was obviously a bit of long term thinking there, or it looks that way now. And it's worked out. And their defence as well has been really, really tight. They've not conceded a lot of goals. Like Murillo is obviously one of the best centre backs in the league, you would argue.
Yeah,
he's
big shot.
so eye catching from the beginning of his time at Forest. But he's been really, really good.
And even Chris Wood himself joined in the defence, clearing one off the line.
Yeah, that was crazy. Even his celebration for the goal. Maybe some strikers would get to this point and just be like, oh, whatever, another goal, almost shrug it off in their celebration. He's still like...
He enjoys them.
Yeah, but he's still like smiling and shrugging like the lead on a sitcom. Yeah. He's like, oh, what am I like? Well, I've done it again. Mad, isn't it?
But I mean, people thought that maybe for a while he was a bit of a throwback striker. That sort of big man, all that kind of stuff.
I have no problem admitting that for the longest time, and maybe there's still a bit in there, I think he's a donkey.
Right.
Like I totally appreciate the fact that he's very productive and very efficient, but I suppose it feels like the biggest thing he did recently was transfer from Burnley to Newcastle, a move that was essentially done to get Burnley relegated at the expense of Newcastle. Yeah, and it feels like though he's 32 now, and he's almost got to the point of like. They say in Hollywood, some actors do that. It's one for you and one for me in terms of the films they do. Yep. And he's been so, I suppose, unselfish in the way he's played football, and now it feels like he gets the chance to play it how you want to play it how you enjoy playing it. And I think it was triggered from that hat trick at St James's Park,
possibly,
where he scored a couple of like really high quality finishes. Yeah, and then since then, I suppose has been trusted to play that role, if that makes sense, rather than be a head on a stick, as it were.
No, I know what you mean, and I think look, sometimes it just clicks. We see this. I mean, but I think your point, Jim, about the players that he has around him. I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White just behind, Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. I mean, it's not too shabby, and if you can find a system in which that all works, you're away. I mean, Hudson-Odoi was great again. Obviously scored. I mean, I know he's a couple of England caps, a while ago, but I mean, he's one who might, could get a call up. So I know England are quite well stacked in those positions, but his performances have been
really be doing much more though, could he, to get himself in that conversation?
Indeed. And another man that some Forest fans are calling for an England call up, Ryan Yates.
Are they really?
Get him in there. We could do with a shithouse in the middle of the pitch. Sure.
I don't hate that. I don't see it, but I don't hate it.
In the heat of North America for the World Cup, should England qualify?
The British are coming.
I always have to caveat
Ryan Yates charging.
We just need someone in there just to kind of stir it up a bit.
The other player we should mention, I mean, we could go through the whole team. Essentially, we are, aren't we? But the Nikola Milenkovic they signed in the summer from Fiorentina. Nick Miller, who writes for The Athletic, who is a Forest fan, I think he tweeted this maybe 2-3 weeks ago. He was like, whoever ratified that transfer from Fiorentina should be out of a job because he doesn't expect to see him for long at Forest because he's clearly that good. And the fact they managed to get him for, I think, low teens millions is ridiculous.
It's very good, yeah. An excellent signing.
Well, football moves in cycles, so back-to-back European Cups on the way, I'd imagine.
But West Ham, after that setting off in particular, were there for the taking, let's be honest.
Can we talk about Edson Alvarez getting lost after he got sent off?
Oh, my God.
Oh, I didn't see that.
What you want, is it?
Yeah.
He just went to the wrong bit of the stadium. He sort of forgot where the tunnel was.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of do a little walk of shame.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And then when he got to the tunnel, all the Forest went, "Hey, he made it!" Oh, dearie me. Yeah,
I mean, that was fucking moronic.
it was. Yeah.
He's a bit of a card magnet, isn't he? And this has been coming, really, I think.
Yes, it has. And West Ham, I know they've had, some better results of obviously.
Their home form's been good. They've got 2 home wins on the bounce.
Yeah, and they saw off Ten Hag. So, Vish, you're presumably grateful for that.
I mean, like, in a nasty way, a little bit, yeah. But
Nasty way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nice, is it? But I still think West Ham are not... That wasn't a corner-turning result
No, I don't think
week.
it was. Because Man United should have been about 4-0 up at half time.
So, I mean, this doesn't necessarily surprise me. And the pressure is still very much on him. If anything, he's lucky that he's got the cushion of worse teams below him. But, this is...
I mean, Man United are just a point above them.
Yeah.
So,
that's how bad it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So, no, you are right, and the pressure's on there. But, I mean, glorious for Forest, of course, as they continue their magnificent season, quite frankly, up to third, 6 points by. And Forest as well. I think this is worth pointing out. Only conceded 7 goals this season. Liverpool have conceded 6, but it is brilliant. They've scored 14 as well, which is, as I said, Nuno didn't score too many, but would keep it very, very tight. They're in the groove, and I think the forward players that you had, perhaps they had some good ones at Wolves as well. But I think whatever's going on, this feels like, almost like peak Nuno, if you see what I mean. We thought we'd seen the best of him at Wolves, and that was impressive. But right now, they are. Could be a really special season for Forest, I think.
Nuno did an interview with a Sky Sports journalist called Adam Bate, and this was a couple of weeks ago now.
He said, "Did you hear what those Ramble lads said?"
Yeah, basically, yeah. But he was talking to him, the journalist was talking to him about like the numbers which show that Forest don't press high up the pitch.
Yeah.
They're basically like... They have a low block, and that's basically about it. Like everyone does
pace on the break.
Well, exactly, yeah. And so like I suppose they're bucking the trend in one way because they're not, really going at teams high up. But I suppose it works the other way. Well, it can work both ways, can't it? Because if a team are that good at playing through you, you don't necessarily need to try and startle them if it's going to catch you out. Yeah. So you can almost pay them their dues by sitting back, but also having it, about you to, as you say, hit them on the break and also play through midfield. Like someone like Dominguez, like a really classy passer. They've just got everything working totally in sync at the moment. And it must be a great time to be a Forest fan.
Yeah. Fortunately, we haven't heard anybody call it Nuno Ball yet, but that's coming.
I think you just started it.
Yeah.
Oh, what have you done?
Oh, dear.
Hopefully he'll be sacked by the time it starts. We're done, aren't we? That's categorically we are done. As our credibility is out the window.
Well, I mean, we were basing it on not so much Nuno.
I don't know what operation you thought you were joining. It was never really an issue.
Does this affect our credit score as well?
I think, yeah. We wasn't a comment on Nuno. It was more on Marinakis, the owner.
Well, I think part of it is that, the predictions at the start of the season are very, very difficult, aren't they? So you think they're probably going to be quite unstable because of that fella. So,
and we move on to Spurs 4, Aston Villa 1. Back-to-back 4-1 home league wins for Spurs. Both times after going a goal behind.
They love going a goal behind.
Well, it's 12 times Spurs have gone behind at home in 14 league games in 2024. They've come back to win 8 of them. So you're all right, Jim. The stats back you up.
Bad hosts. It's rude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
You're so welcoming in North London.
Exactly.
And they're ruining it.
They are ruining it. Spurs booze at half time. They weren't at full time. So you can...
you can boo when you're 1-0 down, can't you? Everyone does it.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
It's come down to the cottage.
Sorry, you call it intermission there, not half time, don't you?
A little bit. And then we all go to the front and buy an ice cream.
Yeah, the safety curtain comes down.
It's just hurry up. The second act's getting underway. So.
Oh dear! But at least we're dry. I think with
Not if you're in the pool.
not yet. Where were we? Spurs. Yes. I mean, I think that the reason why I mentioned the booze at half time is they had just beaten Man City, of course.
Yeah.
In the cup, but again, we talk about how some are feeling about Ange and what's going on there, and frustrations maybe about the playing stuff.
They're a bit Jekyll and Hyde, aren't they, in a lot of ways?
But what a response. It's
in one way.
Yeah, it's a big result for Spurs, and it was a big performance because I think they needed this. And against a decent Aston Villa side who are very, very stubborn. Villa, to me, I mean, correct me or comment on this, but they seem to be, let's just keep it tight.
Yeah.
Let's just have that, as you say, the sort of low block, let's sit in deep, because they probably won't have too much to break us down with. And they get the goal, Rodgers, of course, and could have maybe had another one if, was it Onana hit the post?
Yeah, I think Watkins had a good chance as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you saw what Villa were doing. And again, they can be a stubborn side if you want. And Villa, this is where you see Villa starting to kind of manage what's going on, really, in terms of games coming up. You know, they're in the Champions League again on, was it Tuesday night? Certainly this week. And then they're off to Anfield next in the league. So there's a lot going on there. And realistically, you wouldn't think Aston Villa would be challenging for the league title. But to get back in the Champions League and also as well, you've got to remember with the Champions League, you finish in those top positions, you then don't have to play the playoff, you know. So actually take care of business, you know. So there's all that going on, you would have thought, in Emery's mind. So if you can dig in here and get away with a 1-0 win or something, which seemed to be the plan, I think, then, you know, that's pretty smart. But in the second half, Spurs just weren't having any of it.
This is it. They're a dangerous team to try and do that to, aren't they? Because if you say, go on then, come and have a go at us, it's like, yeah, this is our favourite bit. We love this.
But then can be a little bit blunt, though, at times.
Sure.
In attack. But when Brennan Johnson scores, as he tends to do, you think, oh, right, here we go. And then Solanke takes over. And, I mean, a slip and a dink.
Oh, lovely.
Come on, a slip and a dink. For a guy who hasn't scored since, was it late September, you think maybe his confidence might not be there. But
I think that's the furthest out of his Spurs goals so far.
Is that right?
I think quite a lot of them have been, you know, reactions to saves or like tap-ins and stuff.
What composure, though.
Glorious. I think he does Martinez there because he dinks him so early.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, he knows what he's going to do as soon as he's running onto that ball. There's no, like, touch and then, you know, sensing Martinez, you know, encroaching on him. He just goes for it straight away.
He does.
And he buys him more space, doesn't he? Because not only does he have more depth to get the ball up and down, but he's got more of the goal as well because he hasn't narrowed the angle. So it's a brilliant finish. And I think, you know, what you were saying there about the responding in the second half, they looked really sluggish in the first half. And I worried that the City game would have taken too much out of them.
Yes.
And not only did they come back stronger in that second half, probably, you know, pushed by a few words from Ange at half time, but they didn't fall into the trap of when they got ahead with Solanke, they kept up that intensity.
Yes.
You know, they've been, and I suppose that they're probably more susceptible to this away from home. And partly it was governed by the crowd just being really up and excited. But they intercepted that ball high up for Solanke's second goal. And yeah, they just bossed the rest of the game.
And also, credit to Postecoglou for his substitutions. Because when he takes Son off, and Son wasn't best pleased, bringing on Richarlison, who's had a bit of a funny, you know, he's not scored a lot of goals, has he really, and done that much. Again, if you're a Spurs fan, you're thinking, hang on, we've got ourselves back in the game here.
Yeah.
It's been a bit sluggish. What's going on here? But it proved to be right. And for that third Spurs goal, Richarlison is in a shooting position. It's a bit of an angle, but I thought he's going to have a crack here.
Yeah, he does normally do that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't blame him for doing it. But again, it shows you a bit of composure there. He picked up a bit of an injury doing it. Squares, and the game's over. So, you know, I think it's a really good win for Spurs, obviously. And Ange would feel justified by what he did and those subs as well. Little things like that just alleviates a little bit of pressure. And Madison scoring a free kick late on, just as the icing on the cake.
Little cherry on top, isn't it? And also, they're essentially, you know, they're two teams who are vying for similar positions in the league. So this is a big blow to win a game this comprehensively as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, look at the opponent. You know, it's a team who we know how good they are. So you are right to say that, Jim. So Spurs, yes, they're up in 7th, just 2 points behind Villa and Arsenal and Chelsea. So they've got their sights on them. Now, did you see that former Spurs manager, as we now call him, José Mourinho, had a big win this weekend too? We go to Turkey, of course. His Fenerbahce side beat Trabzonspor 3-2 on Sunday after Sufyan Amrabat scored the winner in the 102nd minute.
Could a sentence be more Turkish?
It's great, isn't it?
José Mourinho, Sufyan Amrabat, Fenerbahce Trabzonspor, 102nd minute league game.
Yeah, league game. We should specify. There was a lot of VAR going on. He tried a knee slide, did Mourinho, and just it failed spectacularly at it. And then one of his players, I think it was a player rather than a coach staff, came and hugged him like straight away. But it was almost like a rugby tackle. Right. It was like, it kind of saved him, but it was like proper impact.
not just any player, the goalkeeper.
There you go. But there was a couple of penalties that they had conceded, and the post-match comments from Mourinho, I think it's the most outrageous stuff that's ever come out of his mouth.
Seriously?
Yeah, I think so.
Go on.
Do you not think?
Worse than I was rude, but I was rude to an idiot.
No, this is like, he sounds like the leader of an opposition party who's got a bit of wind up his sail and is going, what we need in this country essentially is populism.
Wow.
He sounded like a...
Do we have these quotes?
Well, you could watch the video, but like he started saying things like, so he moaned about the referee and said, did he say he was just like a young boy or something? And he went, Fenerbahce, I speak on behalf of everybody, we don't want him again. We don't want him. So immediately causes a thing there. So that referee, let's be honest, is that referee ever going to, referee them again in the league?
Who knows?
He then starts saying...
He won't have had a nice weekend though, will he?
No. So that is... piss poor behaviour, by the way. Really, really poor behaviour from me. And then he starts saying, we are battling against the system.
Yeah.
He keeps banging on about the system.
And he said if Fenerbahce had told him how, the state of play with referees, for example, he wouldn't have come.
Yeah. He said...
they weren't honest with me.
Yeah, Fenerbahce weren't honest with me. They only told me half of the problem. And I see the full problem now I'm here. We are playing against the system. This is why we celebrated this victory so much. Because this was like... He didn't say a win against the system in that way, but that was massively implied. He's talking about the system. I mean, he might as well have said the deep state. Do you know what I mean? It was all that kind of crap.
It's timely behaviour.
But like that's what I mean. He's gone more extreme in all that kind of Mourinho stuff, which is why I think
3G for me, 2G for the rest of you.
Yeah. But wasn't it, Vish? Like it was like pure like populist leader stuff.
Yeah. Well, do you remember when he joined Fenerbahce and he talked about the shirt is my skin, stuff like that.
Yep.
And we were a bit wary that, the power he wields as a big personality in the game and certainly the way he speaks can lend itself to a lot of trouble. It's particularly in, with passionate teams who is essentially just follow blindly. It's one of the brilliant things about football that you can, you can throw yourself into into a sport and into a team you love so vociferously, but there comes a bit of responsibility when you're at the head of that and in control of the message and stuff like that. And I think Luke even said at the time, you used a lot of what you've just described there about like a populist leader and the potential for it to go awry. And
is he after the Turkish presidency? He's going the right way about it.
I think
that's sewn up.
Yeah. I think there's more kind of global domination he's looking out for here.
Right, okay. Honestly, man.
Where are Team America when you need them? José Mourinho.
Well, they've got to decide who's going to be the captain of that team soon. But yes.
So whoever wins out of Kamara and Donald, do they then have to set up a relationship with José Mourinho?
Oh my goodness. Imagine Trump in the room with Mourinho. God. I can't and I won't. And it's a good point.
But I was talking to an idiot.
Oh, dearie me. So, but do check out the Mourinho knee slide. It is worth it. Right, coming up after this, the FA Cup first round featured some spectacular upsets. The FA Cup first round, everybody.
Yes.
The FA Cup first round proper kicked off this weekend, and the big shock was 7th tier Kettering Town beating League One Northampton Town. Battle of the Towns. It was a local derby. The two teams are just 17 miles apart. And who got the winner? In extra time? A towering header from that man, Niall Ranger.
Sorry.
A little bit of crowd noise there from me. Niall Ranger, I mean, he obviously recently on the BBC talking about his past regrets and how, what could have been with regards to his footballing career. But nice for him to, at this age, was he 33, something like that, to get a moment and to do something big for Kettering Town, who, getting to the second round of the FA Cup was huge for them.
Yeah, and they went 1-0 down to an own goal as well, and to turn it around from that is absolutely amazing.
It is, yeah.
Is it 34 years or something like that since they've played their rivals, because they're so far apart in league position?
Oh, it was brilliant. The scenes at full time. It's proper classic FA Cup stuff, that. So very, very enjoyable. Marvin Sordell and Gary Hooper also came on for Kettering. So, yeah, again.
It's a lovely pedigree there.
It's enjoyable all round. It's something we can all get behind, definitely. Elsewhere in the first round proper, the National League side Tamworth defeated League One Huddersfield Town. It's amazing, isn't it, when I'm looking at Huddersfield, and I'm sorry, Huddersfield fans, but it's like, they were in the Premier League not that long ago.
Yeah.
So Tamworth put them to the sword. The only goal came when Tom Tonks chucked a long throw.
Sorry, stop. Whoa. Hold your horses.
He essentially scored a throw-in, Tom Tonks.
It was an amazing. He's got one. If you've not seen the highlights, I'm going to work on the assumption that most people listening won't have. He has got the sort of Rory Delap style long throw down to a fine art, to the point where, as you sort of touched on, he essentially threw the goal into the net, and the goalkeeper's essentially panicked.
Oh, massively!
Touched it, it's gone in. If he leaves it, it doesn't count.
I know. I think, the goalkeeper was a proper flat from the keeper. Poor bugger. But when you got
Tamworth's Tom Tonks,
but when you got Tom Tonks,
vocal warm up,
when you got him chucking the ball at you, you would panic, wouldn't you?
Yeah, when you've got the old Tonks out there.
Yeah, incredible. Tom Tonks, everybody.
And
the FA Cup is back.
We've got headers from crosses. We've got Chris Wood banging them in. We've got Tommy Tonks.
Do you know what I thought this weekend, everybody? We've got our game back.
Tom Tonks.
Sounds like a DJ as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, but
a tonk on it.
But at that, the honky tonks.
Oh.
Yeah, dearie me.
Tonk.
Much to be enjoyed about that man's name. Manager, this is a good name as well. The manager, Andy Peake.
Come on, are they? Sorry, someone's taking the piss here. Tommy Tonks managed by Andy Peakes.
Oh dear. The club is owned by the Beano, presumably. I don't know. But Andy Peake said, we had to be strong down the spine, and the spine was strong. I just wanted to be competitive and not embarrassed on national television. Well,
you achieve that and then some.
Exactly. That's what happens when you've got a strong spine. That is strong.
I'm just checking if someone went with the headline Peakesy's blinders.
Oh, how about that? Well, while you check that, we should bask in Andy Brassell's glory that his AFC Wimbledon boys beat MK Dons 2-0. Mm-hmm. Lovely old job. Wycombe Wanderers, their 3-2 victory over York City was an interesting one. More for the fact that they had a great half-time show by a guy on his stag do who was singing Let It Go. They're two proud clubs. What's going on there? That's not...
And he's dressed as Elsa.
Yeah, what? I did look at that and I think, hang on a minute, these are proper clubs here.
Can we take a moment to appreciate the organisational skill of the best man there? That is phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. I don't know the story. Is the best man, is he the chairman of Wycombe Wanderers? I don't. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but I did think to myself.
Oh, the worst thing is I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a funny idea.
It is funny.
Also, check out the video because I don't know.
You can get that at Old Trafford at half time.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Check out the video because there's every chance that the stag didn't know he was going to do it,
right? Despite
the fact he's dressed up as Elsa.
Yep. And
the thing I'm gauging from that, the only reason I'm gauging that is because they put the lyrics on the big screen. The amount of planning that would have to go into this.
Yeah. I love that the club is fully on board with it.
I know, yeah.
Blimey.
Imagine if they didn't win.
Oh, well, they'd have had a good sing-song at half-time.
Yeah, good point.
Everybody can join in. Oh, dearie me. Right, we're going to end the show with some disharmony in Brazil, involving former Real Madrid defender Marcelo, who has had his contract at Fluminense terminated after an extraordinary turn of events at the weekend. Now, this is the man who, of course, rejoined his boyhood side, Fluminense, after having such a successful career, of course, with Real Madrid in Europe. And as well, Fluminense, the stadium where their youth teams play, has just been named after Marcelo. He's a huge figure in that club's history.
Yeah,
but yet
this is an amazing amount of context for what is just staggeringly strange.
Yeah, so on Friday night, Fluminense played Grêmio at the Maracanã in Rio. They drew 2-2. Midway through the game, Fluminense manager Mano Menezes, former Brazil manager, right? Yeah. So it's a bit of, he's an experienced operator. He asks Marcelo to get ready to be brought on. So two big personalities in Brazilian football. When he's on the touchline, Menezes gives him a quick talk about presumably tactics, right?
Yeah.
Right, you're coming on, this is where you're going to play. And Marcelo just seems to respond by going, no. Right? Have you got a stadium named after you around here, mate? And then Menezes seems to kind of understandably get a bit annoyed at this. But it's not again, Marcelo doesn't seem to say that much.
No.
There's not a huge back and forth.
Up, is it?
Yeah, there's not a back and forth with words. Marcelo just seems to basically just go, no, I'm not doing that. And then Menezes pushes him back towards the bench. He's like, well, you're not coming on then.
Yeah.
And there's terminate.
I'm going to rip up your contract.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I kind of respect it because, sometimes we see the manager giving instructions to the players and you can tell the players aren't listening.
Yeah.
Well, he was listening and he was like, you know what? No, I don't agree with that.
I mean, it is utterly incredible. The fact is, I say, he's such a, big player down there. I mean, as I say, the stadiums were not in bank.
For the contract to be terminated is presumably have to pay him up for that, right?
Well,
I don't know how it would work in that scenario. But
goodness knows, Jim. I mean, he's not. The thing is, for Fluminense, he wasn't there for a huge amount of time before he went to Real Madrid, and obviously him returning is the big thing. But yeah, it's done. It is done and dusted at the age of 36. He is in need of a new club. Should he continue with playing professional football?
I think he'll be fine, wouldn't he?
Fenerbahce's calling.
Oh my goodness. Get him in there.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.